Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the melee weapon, the Harmony. Now, in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframes using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. Now, the only difference is when I do a melee weapon video is that I do use one external, and that is a pet that puts statuses on enemies for me. And it's because pretty much every melee build, like minus glaives and I think like one other family of melee weapons, is going to use mods called Condition Overload. And Condition Overload requires you to prime. And so to show a build without Condition Overload or Condition Overload functioning would be disingenuous. And that's why on melee builds, I always add a melee primer. So we're doing the Harmony. Harmony was suggested by commenter Dark Wolf 9637. He suggested it a very long time ago. I hope you're still watching, Dark Wolf. I hope you're still out there doing well. We took kind of a hiatus to do a 2-month pet series, and so yeah, he suggested this a while ago. We're finally getting to it today, so sorry you had to wait so long, but we got to it. We got to it finally. We have the top commenter of the last video, Gustavo Nomagrande, and the first commenter of the last video, Silver44. And we have recent supporters of Johnny, Eddie, and Lovio. Thank you so much for your support. Alrighty. So the Harmony is a scythe. And before we get too heavy into the build, I do want to explain some testing I did, because there is a new mod that came out for melee weapons that adds magnetic in one mod, which is really nice, and it opens up the potential for melee Vortex to now possibly be competitive versus influence. So let's look at the Harmony real quick. We're not going to go too heavy into the build yet, because I want to show the testing I did versus influence and Vortex. So if we look here, melee influence is what has been the best melee arcane. This is, you just put electric on your weapon and all of a sudden, you know, you're spreading electric. It also carries over some other status effects with it that basically just kind of nuke everything around you. Really powerful. Melee Vortex is when you kill an enemy affected by a magnetic status, there's a 45% chance to pull enemies within 18 meters. That's really good, especially on a melee build where like a pull effect is really powerful. In the past, though, it struggled to beat influence because you would have to use 2 mod slots to make magnetic. And there's, always going to be an opportunity cost, right? Like if you use 2 mod slots, then maybe you're missing out on putting a crit damage mod or like a Riven or something like that. Whereas melee influence could just put 1 electric mod and get its effect. Well, now that we have that new mod that just adds magnetic in 1 slot, I thought it was appropriate to do a side-by-side testing with Vortex versus Influence. This testing was done using the exact same build. The only differences was the element slot right here. So I was either using Voltaic Strike and Influence, or I was using the new Magnetic mod and Melee Vortex. Let me just show you that new Magnetic mod for anyone that doesn't really... For anyone that doesn't really know it here, it's Magnetic Rush. It's plus 60% magnetic and plus 20% attack speed, which is kind of nice. Just something to note about the Magnetic Rush here. Something that is kind of like a little extra, and what's kind of nice with this is in a lot of our builds, we have to use Berserker Fury for 70% attack speed. Now, there is a really good attack speed mod that also gives you 120% crit, but it just doesn't give you enough attack speed. It only gives you 30% attack speed, and that's Vice. Let me just type in Vice real quick here. Gladiator Vice is really nice, but it's only 30 attack speed, and that's why a lot of times we still go with Berserker Fury. But I feel like if you did want to use the Magnetic and Vortex combo, you're more easily able to like justify using Vice over Berserker Fury, because 30 attack speed plus the 20, well, not with Voltaic Strike, but with that Magnetic mod, that gives you 20. So 20 plus 30, that's 50 attack speed. That's not too far off from 70. Like, it's still, pretty good. And you get the 120 crit chance now. So I feel like with the Magnetic combo, you could also add Vice more easily. You can more easily justify it. All right, let me stop blabbering on there. So yeah, my testing was, the only thing that changed was the element slot here and the arcane. So let's bring up that info that I have. All right, so I did testing with Melee Influence versus Vortex. These are 5-minute kill counts, Steel Path, Void, Mott. I used a Dirija primer. That's very important. So the best melee primers in the game are going to be Dirija or Nautilus. And the difference is that Nautilus has a pull. And remember, Vortex's whole shtick is that it pulls things in, which is really good for melee. But if you're using a pet that also has a pull, you're kind of making Vortex like almost irrelevant at that point. So this is testing with a Dirija primer, and so this should have been where Vortex probably had its most the biggest chance for it to beat Influence, because we're not having a pull with Dirija here. And if you look at the kill numbers, they are very, very close. They're almost identical. And in fact, they're so close, I would say this is not really conclusive information, because there's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to my tests. I try to play very mechanically. I do it on the same map. I try to pick the same type of tile sets. If I have one run that has a complete garbage tile set and I have another run that has a good tile set, I have to throw them out. So I always try to keep like similar tile sets played mechanically, but there's always going to be subjectivity, because every run is going to be different. Everyone's going to play differently, and so anytime there's a kill number that is like less than 100 kill difference, I don't really find that as like conclusive information. And we see it's very close. It's like less than 20 kill difference, honestly. So this is not conclusive information. And this, with the Dirija primer, should have been where Vortex really took off, because there's no pull on Dirija. So if I was to redo these tests and I did it with a Nautilus primer, I feel like you would actually see Electric and Influence beat Magnetic and Vortex. Now, I probably should have done those tests with Nautilus as well. I'm not really feeling that great today, so I didn't do those tests to kind of like maybe shave off like 30 minutes of test time today, just so I can maybe get some rest after this video. So I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to assume that with a Nautilus primer, Magnetic and Vortex would have done worse, and Electric and Influence would have done better. So, Influence is still going to either be tied with Magnetic and Vortex if you're using a Dirija, or it's going to be better if you're using a Nautilus primer. So for that reason, on my melee builds moving forward, I'm going to continue to use melee influence unless that weapon has some kind of a combo with using magnetic for some reason. Some weapons have some weird, like, unique effects, so I'll always take that into account. But I think moving forward, I'm going to still use influence, because it's either going to be tied with magnetic and Vortex with Dirija, or it's going to be better if you're using a Nautilus primer. All right, enough of me running my mouth there. Let's get back to the Harmony here. So Harmony is a scythe, pretty cool looking weapon. It came out with Jade. It's got some unique effects that we'll go over before we go over the mods. Okay, so before we go over the super unique things, I just want to kind of point out that this weapon has an above average attack speed, which is really nice. And so weapons that actually have an above average attack speed, you could also consider not using Berserker Fury and go Gladiator Vice. That's more of a personal preference thing. So I'm personally going to use Berserker Fury here, but because this has a slightly above average attack speed, you could also consider Gladiator Vice here. So it would be 30 attack speed instead of 70, but you get a 120 crit chance also. And it also has a good range too. So anything that is 2.5 meters and above, I don't have to usually consider putting on Primed Reach, which is nice, because then you're kind of saving a mod slot. Primed Reach is still good. I mean, Primed Reach is still going to make like any build really good as well. It's just that, of course, there's always going to be opportunity costs, right? If you put Primed Reach over Organ Shatter, now you're losing crit damage. So, I mean, it's really up to you. But me personally, I consider anything over 2.5 meters of range, like, you don't have to use Primed Reach for that, for the weapon to be good. And so we don't have to worry about using Reach for any of the mod slots. So I just wanted to point those two stats out, because those are two good stats there. Above average attack speed and good range. All right, so super unique things about the Harmony. So enemies hit by a heavy attack while having any active dots will instantly receive all of the potential damage of these dots. That is very powerful. And that's actually kind of a W and a win for using Influence with Electric, because Electric's a dot, for the Harmony specifically. So yeah, it condenses basically all of the dots' potential damage into just doing an instant like like nuke of damage, basically. Status effects are removed after this inflicts damage. Of course, that would be a little bit too OP if they stayed on. Keep in mind, though, any kind of status duration will basically increase the potential damage, and so that nuke will be more. There are a few Warframes that can combo with this, but one Warframe that I'm not super familiar with, but I read it in some like notes and forums where people were saying that it combos well with the Harmony, is Citrine. She had one of her abilities increases status duration, and so Citrine is actually a really, really powerful combo with Harmony. Okay, some other unique things about the Harmony is that heavy attack kills grant you and all allies in affinity range 30% status duration for 30 seconds. Again, status duration is really nice on the Harmony because it increases that potential dot damage. Also, if combined with the effects of Jade's Evensong Bow and Canter Secondary, the effect will last 60 seconds instead of 30, and is a 60% increased duration instead of the 30% increased duration. That's nice. It's a little bit of a big ask to ask your Warframe to use all of those weapons, but if you really wanted to like only use the Harmony and you wanted to like supercharge it, you could also use the Evensong Bow and the Canter Secondary to get like the maximum effect out of the Harmony that you could. So those are the super unique things about the Harmony, as well as, you know, the just interesting things that it has above average attack speed and really good range. And yeah, so I think we can finally go over the mods for the Harmony here. We're going to start with Voltaic Strike. This is going to give you 60% electricity and 60% status chance. And the whole reason we're using Voltaic Strike, I'm going to skip ahead a bit, is because we're using the Arcane Melee Influence on a melee electricity status, 20% chance for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds. Yeah, really powerful, just kind of like starts nuking everything around you. And again, because Harmony works like the best with dot kind of effects, Electric's really nice. So the Harmony, you know, has Slash, and then you're also adding Electric, which is really nice. All right, Galvanized Steel. It's going to be 110% crit chance, and it's also going to be 120% crit damage. So pretty basic. That's a new Galvanized mod that came out, but it does slightly edge out Sacrificial Steel. So we're kind of switching over from like this slot always being Sacrificial Steel to this slot now being Galvanized Steel. Just because crit damage is usually slightly more valuable than crit chance, depending on the weapon. Again, some weapons have weird, unique effects where maybe you would want more crit chance than crit damage, but most of the time, crit damage is going to be slightly better than crit chance, which means that Galvanized Steel is a slight upgrade from the usual Sacrificial Steel that we would put here. All right, Organ Shatter is going to be plus 90% critical damage. This is also usually going to be your Riven slot. So if you have a Riven, most of the time you're going to put it over Organ Shatter. Unless your Riven has attack speed, then you'd probably put it over Berserker Fury. So Organ Shatter is just crit damage. Gladiator Might is 60% crit damage and 120% crit chance. Condition Overload is 80% melee damage per status type affecting the target. Our pet is going to be producing, thanks to the new Magnetic mod that puts Magnetic in one slot, our pet is going to be producing 9 statuses all the time on enemies around us. So that is 720% melee damage, as well as the potential to produce more than 9 with Momentous Bond, but that's a little bit more RNG. Berserker Fury is attack speed, 70% attack speed. This weapon, again, like I said, like multiple times already, has above average attack speed, so you could also probably on this weapon consider Vice. This is more of a personal choice. They're going to be very close in the damage they do. One's going to attack quicker, and so you're going to get more damage because you're hitting quicker. And one is going to attack slower, but to have more, 120% more crit chance. So really up to you. Do you want to attack slower, but do more damage? Do you want to attack quicker, potentially do more damage? Kind of up to you. It's a personal preference there. So Berserker Fury or Gladiator Vice. And then finally, in these two last slots, we have the stacking with combo multiplier type of mods. We have Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds. So Blood Rush is a 440 or 480. I can never remember. I need to actually look at this in the friggin' wiki one day. The first proc doesn't count, but I'm bad at math. I don't know. It's either a 440 or 480% crit chance buff. And Weeping Wound, same thing. It's a 440 or 480% status chance buff. So both really good. This weapon's good on crit. It's okay on status, but like your status also really helps because the potential damage of those dots are going to be added when you do a heavy attack. So yeah, really good there. If you notice, if you watch some other melee builds, a lot of melee weapons are built out very similarly. So this is not anything too special compared to other melee weapons. The weapon itself is special, but the actual build is very similar to other melee builds. So, all right, the stance. This is where it gets a little bit spicy here. So this weapon starts with this dash polarity. So it starts by like having you use Reaping Spiral, but there's another stance called Stalking Fan. Now, I'm going to have timestamps, and I'll have a part where I go over the stances, and I suggest if you want information to actually watch that, because I really like Stalking Fan. So when we talk about like the stances, we're most of the time just talking about the 4 basic attack patterns. There's more than that. There's like slide attacks and like jump attacks and all kinds of weird stuff. But like the 4 basic attack patterns, in Stalking Fan, 3 out of those 4 are garbage. However, 1 out of those 4, damn, I like that a lot, actually. I'm really debating after this video, I might throw one more format in there and try to fit Stalking Fan right here. Because that 1 attack pattern, and it's going to be the forward block. Forward block on Stalking Fan, really friggin' nice. Everything else garbage, though. Reaping Spiral's kind of opposite, where 3 out of 4 of the attack patterns are really nice, and 1 of them is garbage. But like comparing the nice ones to this, to the 1 nice one in Stalking Fan, like, oh, Stalking Fan's that 1 attack is really, really nice. It's got a 4 slash, and you kind of spin around like a ballerina, so you're just hitting everything around you. Oh my goodness, it's got everything I like. So yeah, I'll show the stances off, so you can make your own decision whether you want to go with Reaping Spiral or Stalking Fan, but I'm really tempted after this video to pop in Stalking Fan here. Okay, Exilus mods. So the 2 most powerful Exilus mods are either going to be Disciple's Merit or Dreamer's Wrath. Dreamer's Wrath is going to make you Tennokai more often, although a little bit more randomly than the one we're going to talk about after, and also give you crit damage, extra crit damage on your Tennokai attacks. Disciple's Merit makes your Tennokai a little bit more consistent, where it happens every 4 hits, and so this is going to be the most often you can possibly Tennokai. Dreamer's Wrath is still more often than most of the other, all of the other Tennokai mods except for Disciple's Merit. It's just that it also adds crit damage. So kind of up to you there what you want to pick. I usually base this on whether or not my little kitten is coming up. Hopefully she doesn't press any buttons here. So I usually base this on whether or not the weapon has a godlike heavy attack. If it has a heavy attack that I want to press as much as physically possible, I will use Disciple's Merit, because Disciple's Merit will let you press that heavy attack at the maximum amount of times, whereas Dreamer's Wrath is a little bit more RNG. It's still pretty often, but it's just less often than Disciple's Merit. So kind of up to you there. I do want to give a little bit of an honorable mention. I think I'm going to add this moving forward in like all of the melee videos to my old brothers out there. Anyone that's old and has bad reflexes, consider Opportunity's Reach. I'm really considering that. Like, I'll do these melee videos and I'll tell you what is the like highest DPS, like Disciple's Merit or Dreamer's Wrath, but you got to give a little bit of love to Opportunity's Reach for old dudes or for people that have bad reflexes, because this will give you a full 4 seconds to press your Tennokai button. I personally have issues with that. I don't have good reflexes, and so I don't press my Tennokai button in time, and that's a big issue, because if you heavy attack without Tennokai, you lose all of your combo, and so you lose a lot of your power. And so if you're an older dude or you have bad reflexes, consider Opportunity's Reach in here. It's not going to be as like as much DPS as the others, but for you it actually might be, because you won't be losing your combo. All right, enough of that. Enough about me running my mouth on that. So we're gonna keep Disciple's Merit up there. Yep. so that's the build. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the Simulacrum. I'm going to show off these stances. Again, I'll have timestamps, so you can always skip ahead if you don't really care about the stances. Or if you already know, there's other scythes in the game, so you might have used these stances already. Should only take about 5 minutes. So we'll start with what I have on right now, which is, I think it's Reaping Spiral. Let me just double check. All right, I have Reaping Spiral on right now. We're going to start with that. So we're going to go ahead and do the forward light attack. This is going to be low DPS and no forced procs. It's a nice attack. It hits everything around you. It's just that it's low DPS and no forced procs. All right. We're going to now do the neutral light. So this is not moving forward and holding E. This is going to be very good DPS. The highest DPS out of all of the attacks, even on Stalking Fan, tied with the neutral block on this as well. So this is the neutral light, very good DPS, and 1 forced slash proc. I'm not a big fan of this. I know it does good DPS. I know it has a forced slash proc, but there's not a lot of movement, and a lot of the attacks only hit like what's exactly in front of you, which I'm not a super big fan of. So, just because it has a forced slash and just because it says it's the highest DPS doesn't always mean it's the best one to pick. So, okay, we have the forward block next. So you block, you're going to move forward and hold E. Not a big fan of this one. Again, it's only kind of hitting what's in front of you, and when you throw your scythe, it's just like in front of you. I should have said what this one does too. So this one is going to be good DPS and have a force slash. All right. So finally, we're going to do the neutral block, which is blocking, not moving forward, and holding E. This one's going to, again, have very good DPS, so tied for the top DPS with the neutral light, and it's also going to have a forced slash. So this is okay. There's some attacks that hit everything around you, but a lot of them are still only hitting exactly what's in front of you. So, and that's why I'm saying Reaping Spiral has like 3 out of 4 of its movesets are good or very good DPS, and then 3 out of 4 of them have a force slash. It's just that I'm not super big fan of any of the movesets, to be honest. So, all right, let's go into Stalking Fan next. Stalking Fan's got a lot of crappy ones, but there's one. Oh, there's one in moveset that I really like. I think to fit Stalking Fan, I might have to take off my Tennokai. We'll see here. Yeah, so I'm going to just pop that off for a second. Hopefully I remember to put it on before we do the gameplay. So we got Stalking Fan here. We're going to start with the forward light. Stalking Fan's forward light is going to be low DPS and no force slash procs. Again, I like the animation. It hits everything around you. Just it's low DPS, no force slash procs. Oops. All right. So next, we're going to have the neutral light. This is not moving forward, and holding E. This is going to be low DPS and a forced impact proc, which may or may not be useful for you. Usually it's not, but I mean, maybe some build once impacts. So here we go. It's a very slow animation. I'm not super... I don't like this one because it's just... I feel like it like debuffs your attack speed for some reason. Yeah, so... All right, enough of that there. All right, and now here we go. This is the one I really like. So this is the forward block. This is good DPS. 2 forced impacts, which may or may not be useful to you. But it also has 1 forced slash. All right, so forward block. This is blocking, moving forward, and holding E. I really like this one. Look, it spins around, so it hits everything around you. It's good DPS, and it has a force slash. Like, I feel like this has everything. This has everything you want. Granted, Stalking Fan, like everything else in this, stance is garbage, but this one moveset's really good. It's got movement. It attacks everything around you. It's got a force slash. Oh my goodness. That's why I think after this video, I might actually slot in Stalking Fan over Reaping Spiral. Just keep in mind that you don't start with the polarity for Stalking Fan, which kind of sucks. All right, enough of that. Let's show off the neutral block, which is, again, not going to be that good. So neutral block for Stalking Fan is going to be low DPS and 1 forced impact proc. So blocking, not moving forward and holding E. I don't like it that much. So the only one I like in Stalking Fan is the forward block, but I really like the forward block. All right, enough of that there. Let me put on Reaping Spiral and my Tennokai before I forget it. Dorija, what am I doing there? Harmony, okay. So take off Stalking Fan. Let's throw Reaping Spiral back in. And Disciples Merit was somewhere here. Oh, there it is. Alrighty. Let's go back to the Orbiter, and I think we'll start the gameplay off here. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a 10-minute Void Mott, just to show off the weapon, see how it does, see what its 10-minute kill count is. What I do is I don't mix it with any kind of externals, except, of course, on a melee weapon, I do use a primer. But I'm going to be doing this on a big dumb Anaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance, no Arcanes or anything like that on the Anaros that increase weapon performance. So yeah. All right, let's start off the Void Mott here. Show off this guy. Do about 10 minutes. When we do these runs, most of the good weapons, especially the melee weapons in the game, usually hit about 1,100 kills in 10 minutes. So we're hoping this guy gets to 1,100 or over. I'm hoping it gets to over 1,100 because it's got some really cool, unique effects that some of the other weapons didn't have.
They're trying to choke you out. Hold on. I'm sending auxiliary life supply.
I don't even know what I Tennokai'd in there. I just like Tennokai'd into the air, I think, there. Oh, no. Double story tile set. Honestly, melee influence is not too bad for a double story tile set because it'll still, like, spread to dudes, like, above and under you. Yeah, so as far as the Dorija goes, I made a video on the Dorija not too long ago, but then they added the new mods, like with magnetic. And if you watch the Dorija video, it's pretty easy just to add the magnetic. Like, if you watch the Dorija video, you'll know that on Burst Laser Prime, we have, like, 2 empty mod slots, basically, to mess around with. And so in one of those mod slots, just throw that new magnetic mod in. Pretty much it. That's pretty much, like, the whole thing. You'll just add an extra status effect. And it's a good status effect, too. I mean, Magnetic's really nice. It's like Viral. It's like, Magnetic and Viral are basically the same. It's up to 320% extra damage, except one is to health and one is to shields and overguarded enemies. So by having both of them, you know, you really increase your power. Of course, you can make this even more powerful, like I was saying before, with mixing it with the 2 other Jade weapons. You can get to 60% status duration and a 60-second buff instead of 30 seconds. I think the duration on the buff actually doesn't really matter because, like, you're going to be heavy attacking anyway all the time. So, like, the amount of seconds on the buff itself doesn't matter, but the duration does because... like, kind of the nuke effect of the dots, like, the duration is important for that. So, I'm not familiar with Citrine, but there is some kind of interaction with Citrine where apparently she increases status duration. Again, I'm not familiar with her, so for any Citrine enjoyers out there, enlighten us on the status duration buff. I don't know what effect it is that she does that with, but apparently this is really god tier on Citrine. Hopefully this tile set doesn't really affect our kill count too much. It probably will because it's a two-story tile set on a melee weapon video, but that's alright. So yeah, for the rest of the week, I don't know what we're going to do for weapons. I really want to get the Tenant Exec done because that's been asked like a million times. Reaper Prime has also been asked a million times. It's just that they're all melee weapons, and I don't want to just have like an entire week of melee weapons, and so I might try to break it up with some ranged weapons like in between. So, like, maybe I'll do a ranged weapon tomorrow, and then I'll do, like, either Tenant Exec or Reaper Prime the next day. I have a big list of suggestions, too. I counted all of the suggestions I have on my list the other day. And it's 60. I have 60 suggestions. And some of those suggestions are going to be multi-video, too. Like, the ones that were kit guns are going to have to be 2 videos, because there's, like, the primary version and the secondary version. So I have, like, 2 months of videos worth of suggestions. So, I mean, I'll still take suggestions for builds, but it might be a bit before you see it. Especially since in between I also try to like add in like the new stuff that came out. Like I don't have the new weapons yet. I'm still farming them. But when I do get them, I'll probably do a video on the new weapons as well, like the pistol and the I've done a video on the rifle because that came out a while ago, like with a there was like a I forgot exactly how you got it. I don't know if it was tuning into Twitch or was it something else, but we got the AX something like a few months ago. Even though it's available now. So I've had that one done, and I've done a video on that one already, but the Vesper I haven't gotten yet, and the like sniper rifle or machine gun looking thing, the Reconifix or something, I haven't gotten that one yet either. I've been farming everything. I try not to buy anything, and I try not to spend rep for it. I try to farm. And farming has been difficult. I'm 1 part away from the Vesper. And the Reconifix, I think I'm 2 parts away. The drop chances on them on missions is like ridiculous. It's like a 1.7% chance, which is crazy. I did an entire day of doing capture missions for the Vesper. And I got lucky at first. So I did 5 runs, and in my first run ever, I got a... well, you have to do C rotation. Well... Kind of. Yeah, I think they'll drop in A and B rotation as well, but it's a less % chance. But I was doing C rotations, and in my first C rotation run, I got a Vesper part, and I was like, oh, it's not going to be too bad. This is my first run ever, and I got a Vesper part. And then my second run, I got a part, and I was like, oh, shit, this must be like a 20-30% drop chance. And yeah, after that, I came to the conclusion that I was just extremely lucky, and I probably should have played the lottery that day. Because it's not a 20 or 30% drop chance. It's like a 1.7% chance. So, yeah, I'm missing 1 Vesper part, and I'm missing, I think, 2 Reconifix parts. And I have the AX already. Also been farming for Cyto 9, and I've been unlucky with him as well. I think I only have 1 part of him. Mostly because I've just been spamming the endless capture to try to finish the Vesper, and I don't think Cyto 9 is, like, I don't think his parts are part of that. Unless it changes. I don't know. I can't remember. Okay, 2 minutes left, and then we'll see what the kill count is. So we're hoping it gets to at least the same level as the other good melee weapons in the game, which will be about 1,100 kills. Although I'm really hoping this gets to over 1,100, because it really should, because a lot of the other ones didn't have crazy like special effects like this one does, where it like condenses all the dot procs. So if it doesn't, I'm going to assume it's a tile set that maybe kind of screwed it up because it's a multi-story tile set on a melee video, but we'll see. Maybe Melee Influence will carry it there, because Melee Influence like will kill and damage things on the top floor, even though I'm down here. Of course, if you haven't watched me before, I do my videos with minimal or no externals. For melees, I use that one. I use a pet primer. So, of course, this could even be more powerful if you're using externals, right? Like, Citrine specifically, if whatever that status duration effect is with her, like, that's a really powerful external, apparently, where she's, like, god tier with this weapon. You mix Roar, it's going to make this weapon more powerful. If you mix it with Nourish, it's going to make it more powerful. So there's like a bunch of externals to make this weapon more powerful. It's just that I like to, in my videos, show what the weapon is going to look like base. And then you guys can make your own, like, intelligent, like, you know, decisions and be like, oh, you know, if I put Roar, it's obviously going to do more damage, so I'll add Roar. Just because not everyone is going to be using the same externals. That's why I try not to use externals. Except for Condition Overload. Everyone really should be using Condition Overload for melee builds. With a primer. So, okay, that's 10 minutes. I'm going to stop killing here. I'm going to find where the exit is, and then we're going to check our kill numbers. All right, 1,154. I feel like, so it got about the same kill count in 10 minutes as, like, other good melee weapons. I feel like maybe the tile set, like, held it back from doing even better because it was a multi-story tile set. But yeah, it still scored extremely well. It's a good weapon. Potential to be ridiculously powerful with externals because of status duration.
It is done, Tenno.
So, really good weapon. I suggest picking it up. I suggest building it out. You'll be happy with it. So that is the Harmony. That's the Harmony done and dealt with today. So if you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.